Welcome to Beyond Barber School. I am your host, Barbara Doza. This podcast, Beyond Barber School, is a space where listeners will hear stories from barbers, educators, and founders that are elevating the barbering industry in and out of the barbershop. Our hope here is to empower barbers with the knowledge necessary to take a courageous next step in their barber journey. Welcome to Beyond Barber School. Super hype. We got our first guest on the podcast today.
Hey, yo.
None other than Jackson Sartor. He had to be the first guest on the podcast, no question about it. Me and Jackson we've been talking about doing a podcast together for a minute, and so I'm just gonna put this out here. Jackson and I might co-host this thing at some point in the future.
Let's go.
I had to make sure everyone met you, if they don't know you, off the jump, because I think we're going to be seeing more of you on this podcast, right?
That means a lot, bro. Let's go.
Definitely. Let's go. So some context for Jackson. So Jackson and I, we did used to work together, and we actually started on the same day. And so we were like new hire orientation. And I don't know how you feel about it, Jackson, but for me, I feel like our love for the culture just gave us a lot to talk about, like so much to talk about from the jump. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but we exchanged Instagram names. And I remember right after you told me your Instagram, you laughed and you were like, trust me, bro, I'm not that vain. So, right, your Instagram handle is Thank God I'm Fresh 15 or 15. Thank God I'm Fresh 15.
Thank God I'm Fresh 15.
So can you tell us just about your Instagram name, just in case, because I appreciated you explaining it to me, but talk to us about the reason behind the name.
Yeah, 100%, bro. Honestly, like, just get down to the nitty gritty, so like I told you before, so I've been sober for almost 6 years, coming up on 6th in February, the 27th. And so when I was in rehab for the second time, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was just like, yo, like, I don't want to look like I'm getting high and drunk anymore, bro. Like I wanted to look fresh. And so, I went to my barber and I just made it a routine, bro. Like I would get a cut every week, bro. So yeah, that's where the Thank God I'm Fresh handle came from. We had a conversation where, coming from, being sober, like I was resurrected, right? And so the Most High did that for me. So the Most High plus getting fresh cuts. That's that's where that comes from.
I love it. So it's funny because I remember when you said it, you're like, trust me, I'm not that vain. And I mean, when you hear the story, it's like, dang, it's on first glance, sure, you might think one thing about it, but you're one of the most humble dudes I met. And like just your journey and just your story of how you even got to where you're at is, I mean, if people follow you and your content and whatnot, like they know what you're about and the value you're bringing. There was an article that you wrote, right? It was for, what was that? It was soulcity.com. I remember you penned an article and I remember reading it, and you talked about how the conversation with your dad and how your dad would talk about the barbershop being. And so can you talk more about that, of how maybe what he meant by refuge, and then I don't know how that's kind of played out even in your life, obviously the reason behind your name, but talk to us a little bit about that conversation that your dad would have with you.
100%. So, oddly enough, so my dad was actually in pharmaceutical sales, right? And I never thought I'd be in sales myself, but it was definitely a grind for him. Him, being a father of three, having a wife, having to hold it down. Like the barbershop was his refuge. The barbershop was his place to chill, relax, let go of responsibilities. I remember them talking about politics, sports, bro, like everything goes down in the barbershop. It was just pretty much like a chill country club, bro. And I remember him telling me that, you know, every person deserves to feel good. He put me on that Deion Sanders quote, that prime time.
Yeah.
When you look good, you feel good, you play good, right? And so, he took that and like he lived out those principles every day. I remember my dad, like it was just such a great feeling because my dad was always busy. Like that car ride, to the shop and afterwards, man, like just seeing the change in himself, like on the way to the shop being stressed out. And like we left like a king and a prince, bro. Like we felt like we were on top of the world. We got to spend a lot of time together. But yeah, man, the barbershop is just such it's a safe place for us.
Definitely. No, yeah, the history of it too. I mean, in the article, I think there was one line that you had in it of even like the first black barbers were some of the first African American entrepreneurs during and post slavery. And I feel like, I mean, we could go down that trail too of just talking about just the history and what it means even for the black community.
I appreciate that, bro. And it's funny that you said that, man. Like, so I read this book called Knights of Razor, and that's where I learned about the importance of black barbers. Oddly enough, that they were able to move across the country. I don't want to say freely, but they had a little bit more leeway than other slaves, right? Because they were making wigs for their masters and things of that nature. And like post slavery, they were one of the few people that were able to open up their own businesses. So they were able to, buy their friends and family's freedom.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah, man, like so like my love for the barbershop is is really deep. It's really
Definitely.
deep, man.
What was that book you said? Knights of the Razor?
Knights of the Razor.
Knights of the
Yeah.
Razor. I feel like
Yeah.
there's a barbershop called Knights of the Razor. Isn't there?
So I did a little bit of research and I realized that like that's like the unofficial like no greases barbershop book.
That's what
Um,
I thought.
yeah, yeah.
Shout out to No Grease.
Shout out to No Grease,
Yeah, they're
bro. They're
killing
killing
it.
the
Shout out
game.
to No Grease. Go check out No Grease if you don't know who they are. Uh, well, let's see. So you get haircuts by the dopest barbers, right? It's in your IG bio. That's kind
One
of,
hundred percent.
that's your thing. So you travel because you get your haircut, every week, and you're traveling around to see the best barbers. So the dopest barbers, should I say? So if you're hitting somebody up for a haircut, they should feel like they're doing something right. But you've gotten, I mean, we don't have to go down the list of names of people that you've gotten a haircut by, but what I want to ask you, in your opinion, what makes a memorable client experience? Like, what are you looking for when you're sitting down in a chair?
Well, for one, like you said, bro, like you gotta ice me out. Like I gotta I gotta see your work. Like
No question.
your work has to be icy. You know what I'm saying? If I'm spending a pretty penny, bro, like
Yeah,
that's what I expect. So I mean that's
sure.
a given. I know you can cut. I think the biggest thing for me is customer service and the conversation, right? For one, if I book an appointment with you, are you on time?
Mm,
Because like for me, the biggest thing is like time is money. I value my time, right?
yep.
And so, are you on time? Are you friendly? Are you nice? Like when I'm in a chair, please don't badmouth other barbers. I'm a real big proponent on that because we're meeting for the first time. Like I don't feel like any barber that I go to, I can feel them out. And when that conversation starts to go left, like I just cut it short because like you just never know who's around, right?
Sure.
Um, so the customer service, the conversation, and regarding the conversation, I'll never forget. I went
Okay.
to go get a cut by Kenny Duncan. Like the customer service was dope. Of course, he iced me out.
Yeah.
Gave me the vicious Philly C cup that I'm always looking for. And the conversation, was more so about he asked me what my 5-year plan was.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And it just really caught me off guard because I was just like, I wasn't expecting that. And it's crazy. Everything that I told him like came into fruition. But like I remember I told him, I wanted to, work for a booking software and things of that nature. And he was just like, why? You
Mm,
know, like he kept asking me why questions, and it helped me focus on what my end goal was. And I'll never forget that. You know, I think the thing that I respect about KD so much is it's impact over success.
mm,
You know what? Like I remember him asking, like, "You're not a barber, but think about what value
yep,
you bring to the industry, right?" And so I'm coming in from like a social economic
yep.
development consulting point of view. He really helped me narrow down my end game.
Okay, so you gave us a teaser of a little bit about your background. So you're not just, you're not just a client by any means. You bring a lot to our industry, a lot of value to barbering, even though you're not a licensed barber. You have your master's in social work, and you did a project even with Haven. Can you just tell us a little bit about the work that you've done within barbering, and specifically talk to us about that event that you even did with him?
Yeah, man, Haven, Haven is the man. So he was my barber when I was in grad school. You know, I would alternate between Haven and Jewel. I want to shout out Miss Jewel. She's definitely one of the coldest barbers in the game. I'm not
Okay.
saying coldest female barbers, like coldest barbers in the game. And you know, I built a relationship with him, but with a significant relationship with both of them. But the project I did with Haven is one of those barbers who's tech savvy, business savvy, you know. And as we grew the relationship, I was interning with Equifax, the credit bureau, and you know, and I got close with the corporate social responsibility president with Equifax. And when we first met, you know, we really hit it off. He was just like, you know what, we're really trying to build, you know, the financial education acumen amongst low income communities. And I was telling them there's no better place to do that than the
For sure.
barbershop, right? You know, we inked a deal where, you know, I created a financial education program where I partnered with a workforce development agency and a financial education nonprofit, right? And I partnered with Haven. I told Equifax, I was just like, listen, you know, when we go into these communities, we can't just take data, right? We
Yep.
have to make sure that, you know, I wanted to make sure that Haven made played a major part, but he also got paid. And what I did was I created a financial education and workforce development movement that a, if you were a participant and went into the financial education training, you went to the workforce development training, you were able to get up to 3 free haircuts a month. And like that's a big deal,
Huge.
Matt, because you know Haven's price point, right?
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge.
You
Some
know what I mean?
incentive for sure.
So it was a huge incentive, but yeah, man. And so being able to do that with Haven, you know, I've been able to do different projects with other barbers because like I say this all the time that you know when I take care of the shop owner, I take care of the shop, and when I take care of the shop, I take care of the community.
It's so good. I mean, because yeah, in your the other thing in your Instagram bio, I think it talks about community development. And so if barbers, they already have relational capital, hopefully within their community, and if they were interesting to, partner with another organization or do some type of development, like what advice would you give them, or what's something where they could start?
Shameless plug, holla at your boy.
That's
We
right.
Yeah, we definitely can make it work. You know, the reason why I'm so good at what I do, and that's wild for me to like to say that, but I'm so good at what I do is the simple fact that, you know, being plugged in the barber industry, but you know, also being plugged in academia. You know,
Hmm.
the school that I went to was the number 2 school in social work across the country. So the relationships that I built with professors, alumni, and you know the board is just really important. And you know teaching barbers how to leverage their own human capital, right? And I always like this is the biggest thing that I took away from getting my master's, because my master's was concentrated in social economic development. So
Okay.
it's like you can make a lot of money by doing good, right?
Mm.
And you know there's a lot of different people getting sponsorships, you know, from athletes and celebrities and things of that nature. but barbers should also not just focus on, getting sponsorships from, the barber related industry. There's so much money out here that you can tap into and also help your community. So yeah, I would love to replicate this with other barbers. I mean, because they bring so much value. Like the thing about the shop, Matt, we talk about this all the time. Like just the simple fact that the barbershop is one of the few places where you have, valid, like it's a vast difference of like from socioeconomic range,
Yep.
like from like your local drug dealer to your politician, like
Yep.
all in one roof, right? And being able to help people leverage, those relationships. Like imagine if we were able to, like when I was working with Haven, like and other shops, helping people get jobs,
Mm.
helping people with any legal issues that they had, making sure that like we can bridge the gap in the barbershop. And those are the things that different corporate sponsors are looking for, i.e. banks
Yep.
and things of that nature. And so yeah.
Right. Like I remember hearing one barber had this idea. He's like, man, I want to get into like investment, but I don't know where to start. I want to start trading stocks, but I don't know where to start. And I remember someone was just like, one of your clients might be have a financial background. Like, think about who you cut. If
Right.
you probably have the network right in front of you, and you just aren't even, acknowledging what's right in front of you, or literally what's right in your chair. And it's not that you're trying to, how do I say, take advantage of anybody, but it's like these are relationships, friendships, network that you've been given. And if people, you have to believe the best and be like, no, people are probably going to want to help you. Don't count them out until you actually give them a chance. And so, yeah, just thinking about that, even what you mentioned is the chair. I mean, I love what the chair represents. Like the chair is anybody can sit in it, whatever age you are, whatever wherever you come from, whatever your social, economic status, whatnot. If you're employed, not employed, it hair texture type, like all that stuff, like whoever you are, that is what the chair I think should represent, right? The barber should be able to serve anybody who's in it. And as you serve the community and build those relationships, then there should naturally be, possibilities for partnership that will flow from that.
100%.
Okay, I want to talk about something else though with you, because another thing I feel like you're passionate about is, and I think it's cool how the mental health conversation has become less of a, I feel like it's kind of less of a stigma right now. Like it's becoming more accepted at large. One thing we talk about is even how, getting your haircut, even for yourself, like thank God I'm fresh. Like I got to go get my haircut for, mental health, it's well being. But you think of the barber side of things, like the barber is serving a lot of people. They're the unofficial, therapist and counselor and mentor. And they're honestly carrying a lot in serving their community. And that can sometimes take a toll on the barber. There are unfortunate stories even within the community of barbers really struggling with mental health or depression or anxiety. And so can you talk to us a little bit about that, of just like the importance of barbers even taking care of themselves, and like what does that, I don't know, what does that look like? Or
No,
yeah, just talk to us
100%,
about it.
bro. Yeah, no, 100%. And it's also like, so because I have my master's in social work, I'm also a therapist, right? And so when I go to these shops and talk with these owners, like I want to give them the platform to tell me what's going on with them, right? Because it's just like, who do they get a chance to talk to? Who do they get a chance to vent to? Like they take on like they internalize so many different problems from their clients on a day, like you, bro, this as a barber on a daily basis. So taking care of your mental health is so important. In the therapy community, we always say a great therapist has a greater therapist, right? So it's like in order to be a good therapist, like you have to have your therapist. Like you hope your therapist has a therapist, right? Like
Yeah.
we it's just like you hope your barber has a barber, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Taking care, like people forget that if you had problems with your kidney, you would take meds for your kidney, right? The brain is also an organ, and
Mm,
we forget that. Yeah, man. I have a dream team, man. Like I have a support system. I have a therapist. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
I do everything I can to make sure that I'm in a tip top shape. I have a family to provide for. Like I have friends. You know what I mean? Like I think for the barber, it's extremely important because, like I said, man, like every barber is doing community development, right? And so you want to be able to be your best. And I
yep.
think mental health is taking care of your mental health is one of the best ways to do that, right? Um, there's such a high suicide rate amongst men, and if we can, like, there are other organizations that are doing this that are empowering barbers and barbershop owners to focus on mental health, but it's really important, having someone that's objective,
Hmm.
to, like, you can just have someone that you can just vent to
Yep,
with no judgment, right?
yep.
Like you don't have to worry about, seeing a therapist and, having your therapist go and tell your boys like your deep and darkest secrets, right? I mean, that's illegal. You get a check that
There's
way.
a, yeah, there's
You know what I mean?
legality to that. Yeah, protection.
Right, 100%. And so just being, I mean, because I'll never forget there's a scene from The Sopranos,
Mm,
and Tony was talking to, I think it was like his number two or number three, and the number three was like telling him about how he should run his business, telling him what it takes to be a barbershop owner, and he was just like, "Look, man, like you don't understand what it takes to be number one, right? Every decision I make, good or bad, affects everybody, right?" And even Tony himself was seeing a therapist.
let's talk. Okay, so we're kind of getting into, I mean, being a barber, it's not just about cutting hair, right? There's so
Right.
much more that's going on. And I mean, one of the things that you mentioned, even when you something you look for in a service is you're like, man, that barber, I like for them to be on time, or there's a professionality I think that you even expect, especially at a certain price point that you pay. And even for you, like you're traveling to see these people. You're like, I came here, I'm on time. You better be on time. I just drove, 2 hours to come see
2
you.
hours, bro, to hop on a
Right.
plane.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hop on a plane to go. So, can you talk to us about that? I mean, I feel, barbers are always continuing to develop themselves, but even to develop themselves professionally, what do you think that looks like for barbers to continually invest in themselves and even trying to continue leveling themselves up in terms of being a professional?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a trickle down effect. Like the best barbers and barbershop owners that, bro, you and I know, what sets them apart is, of course, can, like, they're icy, right? They can cut, but like their professional development, bro. Like being professional is the key thing that sets you apart from other barbers and barber shops. Like I would also go as far as to talk about personal development, right? Going to trade shows and all that stuff is amazing. Building a network of people that you look up to. But it's also like, what are you reading right
Mm,
now? Are you reading anything at all? There's so many books, right?
look
There's
out,
so
look
many.
out, careful.
Yeah, bro, I'm such an avid reader, and it's helped me so much in my career. Sometimes, to be the best, like wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Wake up at 5, meditate, pray, do your affirmations, look at your goals for the day. Something as simple as that can really elevate you and your business, reading, things of that nature. But again, like with the professional development, if you want to get sponsored,
Mm,
learning to be a professional, like being on time is important for one. You know what
yep.
I mean? Being organized is really helpful. If you're late for one of your clients, right, and you don't know who you're cutting, like this client that you're running late for could be like an executive at Starbucks or Sony, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you just blew it, like you blew an opportunity. I know another barber that had a chance to. I mean, this happens all the time. Like barbers sometimes, miss out on opportunities because they were late, right? Or didn't communicate that they were running late. And I think, teaching people how to communicate in any industry is just really important because, like, that's how you're going to get to the bag. That's what differentiates you from other people. There's some barbers who really talk badly about clients.
Mm.
And it's just like, yo, your clients see this, right? You know what I'm saying? Like calling your clients cheap, and it's just like, yo, like it's like they're helping you with the light bill, bro. Like like this is that's just dangerous territory. So it's just like I think the best barbers and the barbershop owners have there's a fine line between like knowing that the industry is like entertainment, but it's also getting back to customer service, right? And when you can provide that customer service, bro, you hit the key thing, bro, consistency. When you're consistent, like that's how you get to be successful. If you're inconsistent, you're not on time, but you give great cuts, you're gonna lose your client to someone who's okay, but he can get me in and out in 30 minutes, right? And I think once the barber learns that, you know, the client is coming to you for a reason, like he or she has something really important to do when they leave. Like, bro, we're both professionals. I can't be in the shop waiting for a cut for an hour or 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like, we have things to do. And so, I mean, and that's just an example of like, putting yourself in the client's shoes. Instead of talking about cheap clients, like let's empower our clients because again, like you never know who you're cutting. And I don't want this to take like I don't want people to feel like I'm taking a shot at the industry. It's just based on like what I see. Like professional professional development and investing in a brand are huge revenue generators.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just wrap up with some closing thoughts. I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything before we wrap up? Like, obviously, the name of this podcast is Beyond Barber School. Obviously, some students, whether they're listening to this, they're thinking about life beyond barber school, or there's barbers out there that are reflecting on their life beyond barber school and trying to figure out what's next for them. Like, I don't know, any encouragements or any thoughts for them as I don't know, just to kind of leave them with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, always be a sponge. Like I don't care where you are in your career, like you can always be learning. My mentality and is like to always invest in yourself. Like you have to invest in yourself, whether it be education, financially, in this industry, branding is really important. That's how you set yourself apart from other people. When you can invest in yourself, and your clients will see that, right? Get that custom branded app, right?
If you need one, hit them up.
If you need one, holler at your boy. But yeah, I think utilizing the network that you have because there are like rich people always say this, like your network is your net worth,
Mm.
right? So being able to tap into that, you know, um, yeah, and also I do want to mention something about that's really key, and it goes with the mental health piece. You know, if you're a barber and you offer your client a silent appointment,
Mm.
like just being like, do you like I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you, but if you want, just a silent appointment just to chill and relax, we can do that too. Revenue generator.
Yeah,
Revenue generator right there. Because it shows that you care instead of like jumping into a
it's good.
conversation unknowingly because you don't know where the client is at.
Comes back to that service. Like, even as we talking about what barbers are and what we're really doing, like we're serving whoever it is that's in our chair in whatever needs that they have. If they want to talk, we could talk. If they don't, we don't have to. I'm gonna serve you up. Make sure you get that. Like, it really does come back to right? Barbers taking care of their clients, but um, man, we talked about so much good stuff.
So much
Gosh,
good stuff, bro.
you've dropped so many bars, dude. So many one-line bars. Like I could just take a little clip because you sent so many bars. Well, all right. I'm gonna do, shameless plug for you as we wrap up. There is a reason why, you were the first guest. You are, I just think, we share a huge love for the culture. And I mean, yeah, you don't even have to be a licensed barber to be contributing and offering so much value to our community. And you are obviously a huge representation of that, and even what partnership can look like within people in the community or even our clients. Like if you're a barber out there and thank God I'm Fresh 15 DMs you, or Jackson Sartor ends up on your books, I hope you know you're doing something right. All to say, hey, if he hits you up, you have an amazing, amazing person sitting in your chair. It's gonna be a great conversation. You're gonna learn so much from him. And so, yeah, shout out to those barbers out there who maybe will be sliding into your DMs after this podcast. You're living out in Delaware now, and so he's in the East Coast. But what's the farthest you've actually traveled for a cut? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
Bro, like I'll hop on a plane, bro. Like if you're icy, you're icy.
If it's right, if it's worth it, you'll be there.
Right, I'll be there.
I
Yeah.
love that. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up here. First guest, Jackson Sartor, aka Thank God I'm Fresh 15. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And I think we'll be seeing more of you, yeah?
Of course, bro, 100%.
All right, bro. Good talking to you. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode with Jackson Sartor. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You could probably tell I'm a huge fan of Jackson. I appreciate him so much. I just wanted to end here with just a couple announcements, kind of wrap it up before we head on to the next episode. A couple shout outs I just want to give. One big shout out to Squire. Booking software for barbershops. That's actually that company that me and Jackson, we met at. That's, where we work together at. So big shout out to Squire for connecting me and Jackson, and even just the work that they're doing amongst the barbering community. Jackson is still an account executive, and he works with barbershops in the East Coast. So if you were wanting to get connected and learn more about that custom branded app that Jackson was even talking about, or how you might be able to invest more into your business using Squire, please hit him up. His Instagram is Thank God I'm Fresh 15. He would be more than happy to connect with you. Also in the show notes, I have linked that article that I had mentioned, the Soul City article that Jackson wrote that talks a little bit more about that conversation he had with his father, the points on the barbershop being a refuge. I've also linked the book to Amazon if you were looking to purchase The Knights of the Razor. There's that book that we had talked about in this podcast as well that you can take a look at. I'll also do some links for some of the barbers that got shout outs throughout this episode. We talked about Haven and Kenny Duncan, and we talked about Jewel. We talked about No Grease Barbershop. And so I'm going to go ahead and list out some of those shout outs to some of the barbers that were mentioned in this episode. If you want to go give them a follow, please do that and show them some love. And I think that should be it. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks again to Jackson for being our first guest on the podcast, first of many. I really do hope that we'll be able to bring him back and talk about some more things that we didn't get a chance to cover. He has a lot more to share, a lot of value to offer. I do encourage you, if you are looking to follow up with him on any of the things he talked about, he is 100% genuine when he says he wants to work with you or partner with you. So talk to him about maybe something that you're dreaming up. All right. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you next time.